Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Does your inner critic tell you that you're not creative or talented enough? That what you make won't meet your expectations? That other people will hate it and mock you for daring to try? Well, there's a lot to get into, so what do you say we get right down to it? My name is Jeff Mohr. I'm the Northwoods Carver, and thanks for seeing what I saw. Let's discuss overcoming creative paralysis, making projects happen. So I've always struggled with these big new projects coming down the old pepperoni, and I'm just overwhelmed from the last ones I just finished. But we can't say no, right? Or can we? I don't know. For me, it's never been an option. I have to do it. Okay, this article was written on June 21st of 2016. Creative process paralysis, unblocking, and overwhelming SOS. Sweet. All right. Who was it written by? It's on kenningzoo.com. Anyway, this is a very cool article, and my brain works a little differently than a lot of people. I'm a deep thinker, and I like to tap into these things. So not only do I learn for myself when I do these videos, but I actually hopefully will spread a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of wisdom to other people that are struggling with these things and just haven't had time to. The writer says, I wrote this post in 2016. So much has changed in the way I work. When I first started doing creative projects, I would often get stuck into this corrosive cycle of grandiosity, inertia, guilt, and eventually become paralyzed. This is what mine has looked like in the past. Okay, so I'm going to be commenting on this as I go, and maybe your voice will be heard in mine. All right, the cycle of creative paralysis. Number 1, you get a great idea, and wow, it's truly awesome. Perhaps you think it'll be my golden egg, my ticket to creative fulfillment, financial freedom, and love. You sit on the idea for a while, and then you tell your friends about it. It gets more precious and grandiose in your head. Weeks pass, maybe months. Eventually you start getting a little worried that someone else will steal the idea and do a better job with it. Number 2, so you try getting started. Clear out an afternoon to dive into the project, but you hit a roadblock. Maybe you spend an entire afternoon stuck on the name of your website or trying to figure out the CSS, whatever that is. Number 3, your enthusiasm wanes. 3 afternoons pass, and you still don't have much to show. You've settled on the name, but you don't know where to go from here. The to-do list, however, feels very overwhelming, and you get frustrated and start thinking crazy thoughts about the futility of art and existence. Or maybe that's just me. So you decide to put off the project. Number 4, time passes. Project is untouched. You feel guilty. Each time you think about this creative baby, you feel a pain of guilt. If only, you think, if only. You know it has so much potential. Every so often, you hear about projects similar to yours and feel discouraged and a little jealous. It's already been done. Or you think to yourself with mild bitterness, how would you have done it better? Number 5, repeat steps 2 and 4. Until it just becomes a faint memory of ambition unfulfilled, until the urge arises again and you start back at step 1. The hopes and dreams paralysis. Speaking entirely from personal experience and seeing other people go through it, I've noticed that there are many strains of creative paralysis. Some existential, ruminating, self-pity, and or melancholic. Others are more neurotic, apathetic, or rigid. The form of paralysis I reference above I'll call the hopes and dreams paralysis. It's born from earnest hopes and dreams, feeding one's sense of grandiosity, devotion, and perfectionism, and a deep-rooted fear of failure. Was this guy, is he writing this about me? That right there, that last little bit, that just sounds like me in a nutshell. Perhaps this creative project touch a nerve in your body connected to something deeper, a sense of purpose, an ambition untapped, something near and dear to you. So you pile all your dreams and hopes on this one project. The problem is, the project itself is a living, breathing thing. In its early stages of existence, it's fragile and unformed. Like as a young seedling or a fetus, it cannot stand the full weight of your hopes and dreams. That stuff is heavy. On making creative projects real, I've experienced the hopes and dreams paralysis many times, especially when I worked a day job and was struggling to cobble together a creative workflow. I felt a good amount of creative angst, and sometimes I still do. Here are the guidelines and processes I've come up with to combat it. This is how I've made creative projects real, even in spite of my voices in my head. Number 1, work from a place of abundance, not scarcity. That's interesting. What's scarcity? It is the fear that there won't be enough for you, that you won't have any good ideas for the rest of your life, that this is it, and if you fail, it's over. Scarcity breeds in a mindset of missed opportunities, jealousy, and competitiveness. It's poison to the health of the project because it makes the project feel too precious, and thus making you possessive, guarded, and rigid. Conversely, the attitude of abundance is one of trust and ease in yourself, your abilities, and the receptiveness of the world around you. I try to check in with myself and I ask, am I working from a place of abundance? Number 2, don't let a project become too precious. A project becomes too precious when you cannot step outside of the work and look at it from the third person point of view. Your ego has become inseparable from the work. It becomes hard to take constructive criticism and to see clearly what is the best for it and how to make it even better. That being said, some projects are meant to be wholly personal, and it's okay if they're precious. Those are not the ones I'm referring to here. Number 3, don't put all your hopes and dreams on one project. Pinning your career and life ambitions on the success of one project is much too much pressure for a young, uninformed thing to take. I've done this without even realizing it, and it's always killed my creativity and motivation. Some creatives have breakthrough projects, so to speak, but the paradoxical part seems to be that it's never the one they expect. You can't plan for a breakthrough, just like you can't plan to be discovered. Just relax and refer to guideline number 1, which is work from a place of abundance and not scarcity. Don't talk about it too much. That's number 4. Don't talk about it too much before you're ready. This is completely up to individual preference, but I've found that some ideas are better nurtured in private, giving my subconscious the time and space to chew on it before opening it up to outside influences. It's easier to avoid the trap of only talking about the project and never doing it. Number 5, cultivate the ability to do deep work, getting into a state of flow. Intense, effortless concentration. It takes a lot of practice. Distractions and contradictory impulses is often just a way for our brains to avoid doing challenging work for endeavors that may ultimately still disappoint us. You know, I feel that way right now. That's why I'm in here making a video. I could be up in my shop working. I know. It's real. It is real, folks. All right, here we go. 6, give yourself concrete deadlines. I was the most creatively prolific when I had responsibility to other people, clients, workshop deadlines, class presentations, etc. Self-imposed deadlines are much harder to enforce, but it just means that the importance of the project and thus the significance of the deadline needs to emotionally resonate with you. I try to take a moment to feel in my bones why this project matters, and if it doesn't, why am I doing it? Having an accountability partner always helps too. Number 7, focus on the bare bones first. Part of making a project happen is understanding its anatomy. What are its bare bones? The core essence, without which the project would no longer exist. If you're starting a blog, per se, The bare bones is not the platform you'll be hosting it on, or the name of the blog, or the tagline. It's the topic you'll be writing about and the writer itself. Number 8, always work iteratively. When you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what is the bare bones of this project? To rapidly prototype and improve a project in iterations. When I look at a project, I'll ask myself, what is the most basic version 1.0 of this that could exist in the world? Then once that is built, I'll ask the same question for 2.0, then version 3.0. It's not doing away with perfectionism. On the contrary, it's knowing when to strive for better and when to keep moving. Well, that's all I got for you, folks. I think this covers some interesting topics because I am a sufferer of this imposter syndrome, and this one there's a plethora of things that I know that I suffer with, and somehow I still have to get through. And I think the deadline, the schedule, as long as there's nobody else doing it, it's so hard for me sometimes to find the, I'm a positive guy, so I always know everything's going to work out. So I think that might be a problem in this, because like if I feel like everything's always going to work out, then it's just like, well, I'll do this today, and then instead of that, and I'll do, or whatever, we're going to go here and do this, and then I'll get back to it. It'll be fine. I know I can do it, and I see myself doing it, and then the piles of projects that heap up around me until I go, whoa, this is a lot, and then I really start to shut down. So it's just a matter of separating myself from the work for sometimes for a week, so I can just get my bearings and come back a new guy, but I totally get this, and hopefully it resonates with some of you. So the gist of this thing is, when you start your project, don't make it your baby, because babies can't take the weight of the actual project. Then you do part 1, there's just the most basic thing, and then you can go to part 2 and then part 3, but always start with part 1. If you're thinking about part 3 when you start, you're headed for troubles. So start with part 1, get the bare bones, and then you go from there. Hopefully I'll find another cool topic to do a video about. Thanks everyone for hanging out and listening to my ramblings, and I will see you on the next one.